Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. So today is Monday, therefore it is a sketchbook session. Apologies for the blister on my thumb. Might be a little bit distracting, but hopefully it's not too gross. But we are working on my sketchbook today and I wanted to do more painting. So I already have the sketches pre-sketched prior to filming just because I find it a little bit more comfortable for myself to sketch without pressure or needing to stay within frame, so I can kind of move my sketchbook with ease and kind of just take my time. So yeah, I have two sketches of Luca this time. This is Luca Kaneshiro, and I will leave his channel down below if you're interested in watching him. He is another VTuber, by the way, and I'll get into the subjects a little bit more later. So the two pencils that I'm using for the sketches were the Palette Color Eno in the color red to do the rough sketch, and then the Prismacolor Kohl Erase in the color Carmine Red to do kind of like the tighter lines, because the Kohl Erase doesn't dilute with water, so I don't have to worry about me oversaturating my paper with water and accidentally losing all my lines. So for every gouache painting that I usually do anyways, I do washes in watercolor first. Watercolor is just a much more comfortable medium for me, and it's a great way for me to kind of like establish all the colors that I want prior to painting with gouache, but also it leaves me a good base so that I don't have too many areas with white peeping through, because most of the time I'm painting like full areas where I don't want kind of like white specks or white dot kind of like peeping through and kind of making look super unfinished. So yeah, it's just kind of like a good way for me to kind of prime the paper. So the one on the left, I wanted to go with a muted color scheme. Oh, let me talk about my palette first. So some people asked about wanting to see my gouache palette. So here it is. And you can see I have different wells here. I have some for lighter colors, which I tend to put the little ones over there, and then my bigger mixing area, I kind of have my blues, my blacks, my browns, some of my grays and yellow tones. I have one for red and a little area for my greens, and then all the little smaller ones are for like skin tones and pastel colors or lighter ones. Because I don't often clean my palette, I usually just mix right on top and try to use up the pigments that are already present in my palette. And here's my Himi Mia jelly gouache that I like to use. It's my favorite way to use gouache. I don't really like tube gouache or making gouache in a pan kind of way. I like this one being able to reactivate so quickly and just having the colors all laid out like this. It's just much more easier for me to use. So as I am working on the gouache painting portion now, let's talk about my thought process a little bit, because like I said, I don't know if I said this. This is my third time recording the audio, so I don't really remember what I've already mentioned and what I haven't mentioned. But the end result for both of these I am not too pleased with, but I think this one in particular, the process and just like mentally thinking about like what I wanted to do and stuff and how I wanted to execute it was just a good exercise for me. So you could see that when I was doing the watercoloring portion, I started to actually paint his face first, and I believe I was trying to block in maybe his hair, and then later on I switched to a bigger brush and just kind of blocked in and did a whole wash over the entirety of Luca instead. And the reason being, and I kind of screwed this part up, which is kind of bad because I kind of set myself up for failure knowing how I work. So I did an overall wash to kind of like set a base tone or like an underpainting, kind of like just the general color scheme. So I wanted something a little bit warm and a little bit more muted. So I kind of went more with almost like not quite sepia, but it's kind of like a muted warm color. I didn't want anything like super popping, and I usually tend to use more brighter, vibrant colors, more saturated colors in my painting pieces, just because I like working with color a lot. But for the sake of like kind of like the atmosphere and the mood of this one, actually let me explain that a little bit. So I was kind of basing this off of, I think it's like his Mafia cover, correct? The one by Wotaku. And I really like that song. I've listened to that song like prior to Luca doing the cover. There's another guy, I think his name is Chikakuse. He's like a cover artist, but he also makes his own music and stuff. But I think you guys might have seen his covers. So he usually has almost like a masquerade mask for his eyes. And then when he does his actual video, it's kind of like in profile, and it's kind of like almost silhouetted in a sense. You can see him usually facing the right, and then there's the mic and stuff. He has like a really deep, almost like growly kind of voice. I really like his singing and stuff, and I think that's the first time I've listened to Mafia. I think he did Shanti as well, which is also a Wotaku song, I believe. But yeah, I'm kind of getting off topic. But in that video, or not the video, the song in general is like obviously Mafia, and Luca as his kind of like persona, as well as just like him in general, is supposed to be like a big, mean and evil mafia boss. If you watch his channel, you know that he's very much like golden retriever, big dog energy, very cute, very happy, kind of more, I don't know, he's very fun to watch. I really enjoy watching him the most. I think whenever I'm working on stuff, he just has a good energy that you can't help just to be like smiling. Yeah, so before I get too off topic, let me get back on track if I can remember. Color scheme, yes. I was looking up references on Pinterest. So I just literally put Mafia into Pinterest, and a lot of the pictures that I've seen, the majority of them are like black and white, but I didn't want to do that. Like I didn't want to do like a pure black and white kind of color scheme. And the more I scrolled through, there was nothing obviously very vibrant. Like Mafia tends to be, you know, dim lidded, a little bit more schemey, kind of like dark and a little bit shady kind of stuff. So I wanted to keep everything a little bit more muted. Now, when I meant that I set myself up for failure, is that when I was doing the watercoloring portion, I should have pushed the values as much as I could, because I needed a better base for like values as well as the colors. Because you can see that for his skin tone, I almost reverted back to how I just normally paint, like a standard skin tone that I usually use for like anime characters kind of thing. But if you watch my other video, I believe it's like the Eki Eveland fan art, that one. So I took more time in painting a lot and kind of like establishing lighting with the watercolor prior to doing the gouache painting, because I'm super unconfident when it comes to painting, especially skin tone, under like dim lighting or like more blue lighting, where the skin tone becomes a little bit more cooler tone, a little bit more muted, or just straying away from being too warm. Because usually for skin tone, like regardless of whether or not you're on the paler skin tone or the darker skin tone, anywhere in the range, I like warming up the skin a lot. And then for shadows, I like making them a lot cooler because I like that contrast. But once you introduce like heavier shadow and maybe like dim lighting or even like just different color lighting, that's when like my brain goes like in a loop. And I feel like I usually can combat that a little bit more when I do digital, because usually when I lay a background color in digital, I can kind of like adjust the skin tone and see what looks right in that lighting sense, right? If not, also there's like the multiply and overlays and things you can do afterwards to adjust. But I try my best to make sure that I can kind of put a more relatively okay color for the skin tone prior by adding the background color. So let's say if I had like a dark navy blue as the background color, I would not pick like a super pale peach color if the person is like fair skinned, if it's supposed to be dimly lit, if that makes sense. So because I don't have that luxury for traditional painting, I decided to try to emulate a similar sense of that by putting a whole wash over the entirety of Luca prior. But I think I needed to push it more so that I wouldn't be too scared to tackle the skin and stuff by making it more muted and more darker to fit the color scheme. But because I made it almost like what I usually do, I didn't really push the other values either, because I like drawing like figures and faces and stuff, the face is kind of like my frame of reference for a lot of things, so that kind of put me in a weird spot. I think I did an okay job for like the rest, other than the hair. The hair is a little bit more muted and a little bit darker than what Luca's hair like color it usually is, and I think I did an okay job for the white. So his jacket and kind of like it's just mostly his jacket over the black part of his shirt is like just a plain white. It's kind of like pinstripes, but I decided to make it more warmer, and we got to pull in a little bit more of those bluish gray tones, and then pushing a little bit more of those brownish gray tones as well, kind of pushing back and forth to create the little folds and divots into his clothing. So I had a lot of fun doing that, and a lot of fun doing the stripes, you can see. So yeah, I do like how a little bit more painterly this one feels, but I definitely botched his face up the most. But for the most part, painting wise, I think it was just good practice, and it's just like stuff I can use for the future, because now I know that maybe I need a little bit more prep work, knowing myself. So if you're struggling with painting or trying to push yourself, like, take a step back and take a look at what you could do to help either prep yourself a little bit more, or maybe you need to do the opposite and try to restrict yourself a little less, if that makes sense. The one on the right I won't talk about too much. So I mentioned that the one on the left is actually kind of like based on the Mafia cover a little bit, like kind of that vibe. I will add like paint splatters by diluting some red gouache and then flicking it with 2 different paintbrushes and stuff. And then later on I'll dry brush a little bit to make it look like it's smearing, just to fit the vibe a little bit more. I also wrote Joker on the card with a ballpoint pen, because I was like, today is not a good day for me using the brushes. I was really struggling with trying to get a good consistency with the gouache. So sometimes I get some good thin lines, which didn't turn out too bad. And I'm even switching to a smaller brush, which is the darker handle, so that I could get thinner lines, but it didn't really help. I don't know if it's just me struggling, or maybe it's just a bad lining day. I don't think I'm too bad with lining with paint usually, especially with watercolor, but gouache is usually a hit or miss because consistency is a little bit difficult for me, so it just means I need more practice. Okay, for the one on the right, what I was trying to say earlier is that this one I don't really like, just because I kind of botched his face. I just wanted to draw something a little bit happier and a little bit cuter after doing the sketch for the one on the left. So I just wanted to paint freely. I didn't want to keep this super duper clean. I also have some like preliminary sketches and like thumbnailing and stuff on the backside of the Mafia one, so I'll show you guys at the end. But my initial plan was actually to make this look like a baseball card, but I decided to not do that because I knew myself enough to know that painting 2 things in one day was going to be really difficult for me, considering the fact that usually when I do like gouache sessions, I try to paint in one session, like one go, but if I can, I usually take breaks. So it's kind of like almost, I don't know, 4 hours of painting on and off kind of thing. If I painted like straight on, I think this was just under 2 hours, I believe, if not 2 hours of painting. But yeah, it would, like, I think the entire session took like 4 hours, not including like the entire filming time. It's just because I took so many breaks and stuff. But yeah, I kind of botched up his face. I really liked the sketch though. I thought it looked really cute, and at this point I still think it looks cute. I think it was just when I started to line the face, that's when I noticed that there was a lot of problems and stuff. By the way, this one is from the, I believe it's like the Nijisanji Koshien. So this year I decided to watch it because a lot of the EN members, like more specifically, I guess like Alira and Luca were doing like watch-alongs for the different sections, and I was able to watch it and understand more about the Koshien, because before I used to only watch like clips, and the clips that I saw were either of home runs or of the quote-unquote like coaches playing and, you know, kind of prepping the players via the game, but I didn't understand fully what this was about. I just knew it had a lot of hype around it, and I was excited to watch. So yeah, I think a lot of the fan art that I saw during like the intermission between some of the rounds and stuff, or some of the matches, they were very cute, and I really liked the outfits and stuff, so I just wanted to draw a very happy Luca. So not only that, I love turtlenecks. So that was like straight up my alley. I didn't draw his hat properly. I just noticed that just now. I had a problem because his little side ponytail, I believe if he was to wear a hat, it wouldn't fit correctly, I think, right? I think I moved the base of the hat too high up though, like compared to his skull and stuff, so it just doesn't make sense. There's a lot of things wrong with it, but it was still fun to paint for the most part. I'm trying to think. In a future session, did I mention this? I have no clue. I kind of want to do almost like vlog style maybe, so that I can show you guys my palette alongside when I'm painting. It's just that I'm a little bit restricted by my camera arm because I have it either on my right or my left. So we'll see how I can do this, because I want to be able to show you guys how I mix paints and stuff while working on a piece. It's not too exciting, but I know some people said that they would like to see it. I'm pretty sure it's probably because they deem something a little bit more beneficial, and I'm assuming they don't want it sped up, so I'll see if there's a way for me to film and cut down the footage in a way that's more appealing to watch, as well as informative in how I mix my paints and stuff. Because yeah, I also get a lot of questions on, like, both digitally and traditionally, how I paint skin tones. The thing is, like, I eyeball things so much that there's no way for me to explain, if that makes sense. Oh, I just noticed, yeah, the last part of the one on the right kind of got cut off. For some reason, it was reading as 8 hours of footage, and that's not correct. I did not spend 8 hours, and it was literally that one clip, so I think it got corrupted. So apologies if I didn't show the full thing, but yeah, here are the two paintings. Different vibes, but yeah, I wanted to show you guys just quick painting session. I had another plan of wanting to paint Amber and Colette together, because I know the patch is coming up tomorrow. But yeah, here are the two boards, by the way, so I can keep my other pages a little bit less warped. And here are the thumbnails. So I had different ones here. I had like one where he could have like the Joker card in front of his eye, and you get like more of an intense glare. I had like sitting poses, him resting his face, him looking upwards. I also wanted to do the one on the right as a baseball card, like I mentioned. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's session and that it was not too weirdly rambly. I decided to do 3 different voiceovers because I cut out 2 stories out of my other ones, but I decided that maybe I'll just refilm it. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's session, and I'll talk to you guys on Wednesday with another video. Oh, I'm not very far in the sketchbook, by the way, so hopefully I'll start steamrolling ahead. But yeah, I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye!